Austin, Texas is a high-tech boomtown surrounded by natural beauty. But it also has the perfect recipe for a deadly wildfire.
The three main ingredients for wildfires are weather, fuels, and the topography.
First, weather. For the past 10 years, the entire state of Texas has been parched by drought.
We're definitely in a drought cycle. We're running roughly 50 to 60% of our normal precipitation.
A second ingredient is fuel. And West Austin is loaded with highly flammable trees and brush.
Houses being built over and under canopies of trees. When they're dried out, they will ignite very vigorously.
As for topography, West Austin is all hills and canyons, great for fires.
Fire likes to move uphill.
But lousy for firefighters.
Very difficult to get firefighting equipment into the area, and it's very difficult to evacuate people.
Add to that hot, dry winds and low humidity, and it could erupt into a fiery hell. It's a hot August day in West Austin, where the thermometer has been stuck in the 90s for days. Given these conditions, it won't take much to start a disastrous fire.
The major reason wildfires start is because of humans. Cigarette smoking, disposing of fireplace ashes, charcoal.
Texans, we like to burn, and burn trash, burn debris.
But today, the fire comes from yet another source.
Catalytic converters on cars, those get extremely hot.
And that's how it starts. A car pulls over on the roadside, and its catalytic converter blasts the dry grass with enough heat to set it on fire.
When the fuels get as dry as we've seen them, it doesn't take much more.
Grass is what we call a fine, flashy fuel. It ignites readily, and it also spreads very rapidly.
As the grass begins to smolder, the fire gets a boost. A hot, dry wind from the desert to the south. The wind blows sparks from the grass into nearby brush. By the time someone notices the fire and reports it to the Austin Fire Department, it has reached a line of trees where one snaps into roaring flame.
There's some plants that, because of the chemical makeup of them, they burn just like gasoline.
Now the fire moves into the canopy of trees overhead, becoming what's known as a crown fire.
It's in the crowns of the trees where the winds are the highest. They're way above the ground level that most equipment can deal with.
It's spreading from tree to tree to tree to tree, and the heat from the fire is preheating the fuel in front of it.
Firefighters arrive with pumper trucks and call for backup because the wind-driven fire is racing up the ridge toward an enclave of homes.
Upslope, up a canyon, with a strong wind pushing it, these fires can literally move at 30 to 40 miles per hour.
Within the houses, smoke alarms shriek urgently. Families collect their kids, clothes, pets, car keys. With the fire bearing down on them, residents grab a few personal treasures and bolt out the door. The first few houses begin to go up in flames.
It can be just devastating.
We would be more concerned with simply evacuating people out of the houses because the fires will be so difficult to stop.
The inferno is spreading in many directions at once, consuming everything in its path. Soon, the twisting, smoky roads are packed with cars trying to escape, while fire trucks attempt to get in.
When you're trying to get emergency equipment in and you're trying to get people evacuated, it's a very dangerous situation. If that access point gets blocked by fire, then you're really up the creek.
Flames shut down one escape road, and an accident closes another. People abandon their cars and flee through the smoke on foot.
With a wind behind it, fire can spread surprisingly fast, and it often gets to a speed that a human could not run it.
You could think that you're fine, and 2 minutes later, you're running for your life.
Some make it to safety. Others are felled by smoke and die where they fall. Those who didn't evacuate in time perish in their homes. Helicopters dump water directly on the fire, but it's not enough. The raging inferno gains in intensity, racing through the canyons.
With very large fires, you can get fire whirls, which is actually almost like a tornado that's on fire.
The best way to stop this blaze is to deprive it of fuel.
Fire's got to have fuel to burn. It has to have heat, oxygen, and fuel. And if you can remove that fuel, then you're going to slow the spread of the fire or stop the spread of the fire.
Firefighters create fire breaks, scraping away brush and grass, removing anything that could burn. But with the fire spreading in all directions, they need to surround it with fire breaks to stop it.
Basically, what we try to do is draw a box around it, all the way around the fire.
To do that, firefighters also use what they call natural fire breaks, such as highways and rivers, if they can. As the fire rages toward the fire breaks, the tension is tremendous.
If this barrier doesn't stop it, where we're going to next.
But fortunately, the strategy succeeds. The nightmare blaze is finally contained. In a mere 8 hours, the fire has consumed billions of dollars of property and taken many lives. Hundreds more are hospitalized for smoke inhalation and other injuries. Thousands of acres of once beautiful hillside are now devastated.
This would be a desolate moonscape, at least for generations.
Up next, how Austin officials are working to protect the city.
Part of the challenges that we have is convincing folks that, yes, it can happen to you.
When It Could Happen Tomorrow returns. Wildfires are started by humans. Austin's first priority is prevention.
The easiest fire to put out is the one that doesn't start.
Radio and TV announcements warn residents to be careful when the risk is high.
Periods in which we expect extreme wildfire behavior. We issue a red flag warning, and local officials will also issue what they call burn bans, where, in other words, it is illegal to burn.
But fires do start, so the next best thing, improving your home's fire safety. The Forest Service and Fire Department offer these tips.
Think about your construction materials. What are you building your home from? Is it flammable? Make sure your driveway is clearly marked. Make sure that it has enough access for a large fire truck to get up there.
When Vicki Landon and her husband, Dave Weilert, learned their home could be burned up in a wildfire, they modified it to make it safer.
We took off the wooden deck and wooden railings, replaced that with a fire-resistant material and stainless steel. We've installed sprinklers off the edge of our deck.
Through the Firewise Communities, a national educational program on wildland fire, they learned they needed to remove the vegetation around their house that could fuel a fire.
The trees were encroaching on every side of the deck. We had cedar trees almost up under the deck, and it was very dense. There was a lot of undergrowth.
Some of the things that we encourage are to get these real flashy fuels away from the home, prune trees at least 15 feet so that the fire cannot climb up into the crowns of trees.
We've got to clear a 30-foot perimeter around the house without brush.
At first, they were aghast at the work that would be required.
The clearing of the land was so painful, but once we started, a couple of neighbors down the street, they came over and they were helping me cut down a couple of the trees. And I realized that it wasn't just risk mitigation, we were also building community.
Soon the whole community was cutting brush and trimming trees.
We do have to take care of each other. We can do all the wildfire mitigation in the world, but we are only as safe as any of our neighbors.
But they know that if a fire does race towards them, they won't try to fight it. They'll just leave, knowing they've done all they can to save their home.
A lot of times it's very simple steps. And then when a fire is threatening, you can pack up your things and you can go and have a pretty good feeling that your house will still be standing when you come back.
Up next, what to do if a fire does break out.
You can do a lot of things well in advance.
When It Could Happen Tomorrow returns. Austin residents can sign up for reverse 911 calls at home and now in a new program on your cell phone. It means that you'll be alerted the minute your area is in danger.
They will be called with a recorded message telling them what's going on and what we request them to do. Do we want them to stay in place, or do we want them to evacuate?
And you'll be given specific instructions on exactly where to go.
That's the type of information we would relay to the citizens, that we don't want you to evacuate to the south because that's the direction the fire is going. We want you to evacuate to the north.
You should also have an emergency kit filled with water, food, and medical supplies.
If you can take care of yourself for 3 days, then we can start getting resources to you in almost any type of emergency.
But the most important thing, if a wildfire is raging towards you, don't wait, just go.
Make sure that you're prepared and can walk out the door with the things you need.
We do see people that are attempting to protect their homes. What we want to do is make sure that they're safe. And being on the top of your roof is probably not the best place to be.
Your life is irreplaceable, your home is not.
One spark, one wind, one dry day. That's all it would take to create a horror beyond imagining. Because a wildfire could happen in Austin. And it could happen tomorrow.